Okay, I think we are ready to begin. Get us started. Let's kick us off.
Okay, doke. Thank you everybody for coming. We have got a full house today and not everyone got to attend, so I'm happy that you're here. And I hope for a lot of good questions from all of them. My name is Dan Pistretto. I run the group on LinkedIn for Landscape Contractors. I have a degree in horticulture, but I've owned and managed landscape businesses in many parts of the world for most of my life. I know what it's like to have employees, payroll, and creditors. I know what it's like to be a leader, to stay up nights worrying about jobs, partners, workers, investors, and money. I know owning a business can feel really great, and I know it can be really frustrating. When it's great, no cares, no worries. When it's frustrating, I have found process, protocol, and procedures to be my best, no, sometimes my only friends. That's why I put this webinar together. It's about systemizing your landscape business, and I have got a couple of amazing partners in this endeavor. The first partner is Dan Nevitt. He's an internationally recognized certified senior E-Myth consultant. He has almost 30 years experience in a variety of industries, and it gives him a unique and valuable perspective. Dan has helped hundreds of small business owners successfully transform their businesses through the power of systemization. Dan has been involved in consulting projects in both Europe and California and has earned training certificates with the Blanchard Training and Development and Personal Resource Systems. His wealth of experience and his business acumen provides me and his clients with a resource that is authentic, evocative, and incredibly helpful. Michael Mills is leading the webinar today. Michael is one of the managing directors of the Business Design Corporation, a business development company for small and mid-sized businesses. He is a master certified E-Myth consultant who has delivered Michael Gerber's E-Myth Mastery program to many hundreds of businesses. What he found was that they were delivering good business theory, but very few of the mastery clients were getting their procedures and job descriptions done, which actually was the point of the program. Michael Mills and his team went about working on a way to make E-Myth theory practical, to create a simpler way for systemizing a business, a way to put E-Myth theory into practice. They've helped systemize hundreds and hundreds of businesses. And to assist with this process, they've developed this very clear, very logical, and elegantly simple systemization process. It's a web-based application, the TouchStone business system. It makes it easier to consistently document operating procedures and implement them in your business. Try to feel what this information could do for you and your company. We're going to give you lots of points that you can use in your business starting today, but you'll get even more out of it if you ask questions. The more interactive this webinar is, the more informative the hour, the more you take away. Michael, are you ready?
I am. Thank you, Dan. So yes, as Dan said, if you have questions, type them into the chat log box or the question box in the Go to Webinar Control Panel. We are leaving time at the end of the presentation for specific questions. And if there's something that Dan sees that he should interrupt me, then he will go ahead and interrupt me. A quick situation. Imagine that one of your key people handed in their notice today. What would that be like? I mean, try to imagine what this is going to feel like right now. All of a sudden, one of your crew leaders or your bookkeeper or your project manager or your estimator, they handed in their notice and they said, "Sorry, Charlie, I'm not coming in tomorrow. I got a better offer from one of your competitors." Now, what if you had procedures in place to make it fairly painless to hire a new employee and get them up to speed quickly and efficiently? You had a hiring system, a training system, and a way to manage this new employee. Now, how would you feel? So this is what it means to systemize your business. How you do things is carefully thought out and documented, implemented, and innovated to make everything better. Now, I'm sure you all know this. The challenge is how. How do you do this? How do you systemize your business? And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. You know, this is interesting. I know that most of you have probably read Michael Gerber's books, one or more of them, the E-Myth Landscaper, the E-Myth Revisited, the E-Myth Manager, the E-Myth Contractor. He's sold millions and millions and millions of copies of his books, all in vertical markets. But so few people have been able to actually systemize their business. We speak to thousands of business owners every year, and so few of them are actually able to systemize their business. And I'll bet you that everyone today on the call knows they need systems, and I would probably bet that no one has done it. And you've probably known you've needed to do this for years. This is not a new concept. Why is that? Well, we believe that there are two reasons. The first is the lack of a systems development plan, and the second is the lack of a systems development tool, and that's what we're going to focus on today, and we're going to focus on it specifically for landscaping companies. Why do you want to focus on these two issues? Why do you want to systemize your business? Is because we believe that if you do this, you can achieve what we call true business freedom. And that can look like typically three different ways. Number one, imagine being able to call in for the numbers from the British Virgin Islands or your favorite vacation spot. You're just calling in for the numbers. Your business is basically running on its own. Number two, you can maximize the value of your business so that you can sell it for what it's worth. If you're thinking of selling your business, it is potentially worth twice as much if it's fully systemized. Maybe you want to stay in the business and continue doing what you love to do without having to do all of those things that you don't enjoy doing, knowing full well that those things that you don't enjoy doing are actually getting done well by someone else who does like doing it. Imagine your business freedom. Here's an interesting statistic. Studies show that employees retain approximately 18% of what you tell them when you're training them by way of the show and tell method. Here's how I do it, listen to me, and then do it. This is how most people train. They're not taking in much, and probably every one of you has experienced this, where you train someone and come back an hour later or a couple of weeks later and go, what the heck are you doing? And they say, well, this is how you told me to do it, isn't it? It's because they heard very little and then they made up the rest. They're typically thinking about other things when you're telling them what to do. They're thinking about a question that they want to ask, or they might even be thinking about the date that they had the night before. But what they aren't thinking about are the intricacies of what you're telling them. So without a documented procedure, they're going to remember less than a fifth of what you teach them. And the result? Well, typically the employee doesn't achieve what is expected of them and they quit, they can't do it, or you fire them, or worse still, you don't fire them because you don't want to have to deal with hiring another person. And there's this huge opportunity cost. There's a guy named Brad Smart who wrote a book called Top Grading, and he writes that the opportunity cost of a failed hire can be 10 times the value of their salary. He also writes that 75% of the time, businesses mishire their employees. They only get it right 1 out of 4 times. But more than anything, it's just frustrating. It's frustrating for the employer. It's frustrating for you. It's frustrating for the new hire. And it's frustrating for everybody else in your company. What we say is that for every frustration in your company, it's the result of the lack of a process. Don't blame the employee. Don't blame yourself. Blame the fact that you don't have a set of documented instructions that someone in that position could follow. A set of instructions that tells them what you need them to do and what you expect of them when they do it. And they need to be able to find these instructions easily, and when they do find them, they need to be current. Documented procedures will effectively change this employee retention rate, this statistic of 18%. I mean, basically, when you use documented procedures and they know exactly where to find them, your expectation should be 100% efficiency. They should be able to find them, follow them with, and then again, you do need to train and manage, but we'll talk a little bit about that as we move on. This is why you can get a double decaf, half calf, mocha grande, caramel, cinnamon, dolce latte with all this stuff. You can get one of these in any Starbucks. It could be in Canada, it could be in California, it could be in New York, it could be in Mumbai, India, and it always tastes the same in whichever country you purchase it. Now, I do want to differentiate here between policies and procedures. I think this is important because a lot of people, they go online and they say, I want to document my business, I want to get all these procedures documented, and they find something called a policy manual. Policies and procedures are different. We're going to be talking about procedures today, not policies. Policies are, in this definition, I'll give you a definition, but think of them as these high-level overall plans that embrace the general goals and directives of an organization. And these typically are topics dealing with employee discipline, decision-making, behavior, dress code, harassment, cell phone use. using your credit card for buying things. You can actually find some great handbooks out there, and we've got some samples that you can use. Between Dan and I, we've developed samples that you can use. For policies, we can literally give you these things. Procedures, on the other hand, are a little bit different. Procedures are the step-by-step instructions with expectations to accomplish whatever it is that needs to be done by each employee in every department in your company. You might have a procedure, for example, for qualifying a new lead, then for doing an initial consultation, for doing a site survey or an estimate, for then delivering your products and services, for following up, for onboarding a new employee, for collections, for invoicing. Procedures help employees and managers do what they need to do to be able to achieve a consistent and reliable result. This is an example of a policy. On Monday, October 20th, 2014, last fall, Starbucks announced that it has changed its dress code policy, and it now allows employees to show non-offensive visible tattoos, as long as they're not on your face and throat, and that is why this will not be an employee working at a Starbucks near you anytime soon. On the other hand, an example of a procedure, these would be the detailed steps taken to make that double decaf, half calf, mocha grande, that crazy drink I listed a moment ago. If I was a barista at a Starbucks, I would have a documented set of step-by-step instructions on how to make this complicated concoction. This presentation today is focused on processes, not policies, because I believe this is what is missing in most small and mid-sized organizations. Why do you need procedures? What's the value of having your business systemized? Well, there are many reasons, some of which will depend your company and how big you are. Some are very obvious. For example, you may need procedures for compliance to maintain an ISO accreditation or for OSHA regulations. But every one of you needs systems for delegations so you can easily hand off things to others. For consistency, got to be able to track and monitor things. If you're doing things consistently, then you'll know whether what you're doing is working. If you're not doing things consistently, then how do you know if what it is that you're doing is actually working? Brain drain, so you don't lose procedures. People are going to come and work for you, and they're going to come up with some really great ways of achieving what they need to achieve. It may be an innovation on an existing procedure in your business, or it may be an entirely new way of doing something in your business. You need to capture that. If you don't, that process will walk out the door when that employee leaves, and they will leave. I'll give you a quick example of this. I have an employee that I hired who's my appointment setter. And after a couple of months of working with me, she said, "Do you use LinkedIn?" And I said, "I've got a LinkedIn account, but I don't really know what I'm doing there. I just haven't had time to learn it." And she said, "Well, I was working with a previous employer, and he had a really good LinkedIn system for mining LinkedIn for leads and then following up on them." Well, a typical business would just say, "Okay, go for it. Let's see what happens." Well, it turns out this was a great system. We've developed our business incredibly through this process. But in a TouchStone business, what we did is I had her actually document the process, and I kept reviewing it with her to make sure that there were no implied assumptions that I just didn't understand. Now we have this incredible LinkedIn system, and if Marie leaves, I've still got the process if she chooses to leave. So you want to prevent brain drain. You also need processes because they're going to maximize the value of your business. Process documentation builds in the qualities that will allow it to be sold for the highest price buyers are paying for businesses like yours. On the contrary, if your business is not process dependent, it's mostly worthless because it depends on you. If it depends on you, your buyer is going to offer you what's called an earned buyout. There's another great book. If you've read The E-Myth, I'd highly recommend another book called Built to Sell by John Warillo. And John goes into this in great detail, this whole concept of an earned buyout. It's a small amount of money up front with the rest of the money dependent on you achieving performance goals in the years ahead. You'll need to stay on for 3, 4, 5 years as the consultant or the leader in the organization, and you have to achieve these goals, these performance goals in the years ahead. And the amount of money that you get, the deal that you cut in the earned buyout is consistent with you achieving these goals. If you miss them, the buyer's not obliged to pay what you agreed on. And so you take all the risk, but you're not in control of the outcome. Point number 7, you want to create something that gives you an option strategy versus an exit strategy. An option strategy means you have lots of choices in the future, so that if a buyer comes along or you decide it's the right time to get out, you have a sellable business. You can see a way to, when they buy your business, they can see a way to invest and scale the operation. They can see that this specific lead generation procedure, for example, will generate this many leads, and this lead conversion procedure will generate this many sales with an average value of this many dollars. It just better allows a buyer to estimate the size of the opportunity in buying your business. Or your option strategy might mean that you install a president and you remove yourself into the chairman's role, which is sort of a kind of a quasi-exit. As I said before, you stay involved in a day-to-day role, building an enduring company that can go on without you. And finally, point number 8, you need procedures because your company, it's just going to be more fun. It's more creative. It's more fulfilling. There's less chaos. There's less frustration in a business that has its processes documented. It's simply a better place to work, and as a result, you'll get better employees who are more loyal and who will be more creative and who will work with more enthusiasm. So the challenges are, how do you get your processes written? How do you keep them current? How do people find them? How do you get your employees to follow them? So for example, let's say that you're writing a sales process and you begin by writing down this detailed sequential workflow. First you do this, then you do that, then you do this. It's what we call a work plan. And you might think, well, that's all there is, right? It's just a clearly written document outlining all of the steps to take. So you write it all up in Word, Microsoft Word, or you save it on your network and you share it with your sales team. And while you're training them in the new documented procedure, you think, you know, it'd be great if I had a checklist to track each of the steps that my sales team is taking on their projects. So you create a checklist. And now your process has a work plan and a checklist, and you save that on your network. As you're listening to your sales team deliver this new sales process, you realize that some are saying things really well and some are saying things that aren't so good. And you think, you know what, really what I should do is I should create a script of the best things to say, and then I'll workshop it with my staff. And that way everyone will know what to do. Now you write a script, and now your sales process, it has a work plan, a checklist, and a script. Now is when you begin to think, where am I going to store all this stuff? I've got, 3 Word documents. How am I going to make it easy for my guys to find this stuff when they need it? But you say, well, I'll get to that later. I'm too busy right now. Time goes on, and you realize your staff really needs a proposal document, sort of an easy and consistent way to generate proposals for your prospects quickly and efficiently. And so you create something in Microsoft Excel, and then you create a presentation document in Word, and then you think it'd be really helpful to create a training video and maybe a training audio, and the next thing you know, you've got a work plan, a checklist, a script, a Word document, a spreadsheet, training videos, training audios. You see, a process is rarely as simple as just a simple document outlining the steps that need to be taken. That's just never all there is. There's always so much more. Given there's so much more to it than just a document, how do you organize all of these different elements for the same process? How does your staff find them? And how do you keep them current to be sure that everybody's using the most current version? If you don't have an easy way to access them, to use them, keep them current, there's just not much point in trying to document your procedures. You need a tool to make sure that these processes are available. And in today's fast-paced business environment and ever-changing business technologies, these processes need to be edited. You've got to be able to find them to make sure that they get innovated when you need them to keep them current. So how do you do that? What's the solution? How do you make these processes available? We talk about the importance of having 2 key things. I mentioned this earlier, a systems development plan and a systems development tool. So let's start with the plan. This is key. If you can take one thing away from this presentation today, take this away with you, this 5-step plan. This 5-step plan has been a synthesis of consulting work that we've done for 17 years, and we've really drilled it down to 5 simple steps. And this, Dan's going to speak to this at the end of the presentation, but this is a 5-step plan that Dan can actually take you through, lead you through it. But here's how it goes. The first step isn't about systems at all. It's about understanding your destination. What is your business going to look like 3, 5, even 7 years from now? After all, if you don't know where you're going, How are you ever going to get? So it's about taking this idea that you have, this vision, this dream that you have, and writing it down. And then what you'll do is, and again, we'll go into more detail on this. We've got other webinars on this. You'll share that dream with your people. Step number 2 is to create a graphic picture of what that destination is going to look like. And this becomes your organization chart, your org chart. So the org chart isn't just what you're doing now. It's what you're going to be striving towards. And what you'll find is that the org chart is very similar to what you're doing now. It's just that you have more people filling those positions. Step number 3, just define the processes that you think are necessary in that future organization. How will you generate sales? How will you deliver on the promise you made in that sales process? What back office procedures are going to be needed, like hiring, firing, payroll, invoicing, collections, backing up your computers, all of the administrative and financial activities? How will you guide and manage the business from where you are today to where you want to get to? In this process, you're not actually describing how everything is done. That does come later. In this step, all you're doing is you're naming what needs to be done. A hiring process. You need a hiring process. You'd write down hiring process, not how to hire, just hiring process, training process, managing process. That's all you're doing in this step. Step number 4, once you've named the processes, you will connect them to the boxes on your organization chart. So think about this. You've identified everything that needs to be done in the business. You've identified all of the positions that you'll need in the business. And now you've connected everything that needs to be done to all of the positions. Think about this. You've created complete functional accountability. Everything that needs to be done is being done by someone in the business. Very, very powerful step. And finally, step number 5, you begin to prioritize these procedures. Which are the most important ones to get written as soon as possible, and who's going to help you write them? This is important because you might have, in step number 3, you might have 300 or 400 processes, but probably only 20 or 25 or 30 are really important to get written now. And typically they're fairly simple processes. It's not what you do. Probably the most important processes in the business are what you do, but you're not going anywhere right now. You might have an assistant who's going on maternity leave, and the processes that she does need to get written down so that you can hire someone very quickly and get them up to speed very efficiently. So they become then the most important processes to get written. Now, almost every business owner we speak to, they always ask us, how long is it going to take me to systemize my business? First of all, it's important to know that systemizing your business, it's not a project. It's a process. And the actual writing of your procedures is ongoing. It never ends. And the 5-step systems development plan doesn't get you to the place where all of your procedures are written and finished, and that is that. That's not what that 5-step plan is about. The 5-step plan is about creating this systemic infrastructure of your business. And depending on the size and the complexity, this process should really only take about 4 to 6 hours. So imagine what that is like. This is a very powerful series of steps to have taken. You're very clear on your vision. You have a clear understanding of all of the positions and processes that you need to achieve your vision. You've created complete functional accountability. You have all of your job descriptions built, and you have a prioritized plan for getting all of your procedures written. This is an incredibly powerful place to be. One of the things I'm going to share with you today as I go through this process is a systems development tool, the TouchStone Business System. It's a tool that's designed to make this really easy, to make it easy to consistently write and organize your procedures. I will also say that everything I'm about to show you, you could do it in Microsoft Word or in Google Docs or Dropbox or in 3-ring binders. You know, we've had 17 years of experience systemizing business, and what we've discovered is that these application sharing tools, they're not built for process implementation and innovation. They're built for sharing documents, and they don't work. You can try it. It's just always been our experience that after a little while, you're just going to get to a place where it's too difficult. TouchStone is designed for process implementation. It's designed for this purpose. We built a software application. It's not a document sharing application. It's an application designed for process implementation. It's designed to keep your org chart available and current. It's designed to actually use your org chart in the strategic development and management of your company. It's designed to transform your job descriptions into useful tools for not only hiring people, but for training them, managing them, and evaluating them. and it's designed to keep your procedures current and available. Very, very powerful process. So let's go through the 5-step plan. The first step is to define your destination. What is the business going to look like 5 years from now? This is such a critical step. Studies show that if you do this, and if you take action and track and communicate the process that you make on this vision, you have a 300% better chance of achieving your goal than if you don't take this step. So why do so few business owners do it? In many cases, it's because they don't know how. They speak with a consultant who tells them it's an important process, but no one ever gives them a tool for how to do this. I'm going to give you a tool right now for how to do this. We actually have, this is TouchStone that I'm showing you here. This is a blank account. Everybody on the call today is going to have a chance to actually try TouchStone free for 30 days. We'll show you how to do that at the end of it. You can literally take the content that I'm going to be showing you today. You can access content, download it, and then quit your account. I'd highly recommend, if you have no intention of systemizing your business, get an account and do what I'm about to show you and then cancel your account, because you can get incredible content here. You would click this button here, the 4 key functions, and you're going to come up to guiding the business. So remember, we're talking about strategy. You'll come up here, you'll select general processes. So we have a whole bunch of processes that are already written for you. Scroll down till you get to the S's and put a check mark beside this one right here. I already did it earlier getting prepared for today's presentation. And you just put a check mark in there and you click Save, and it's going to download this process into your own TouchStone account. You select the process called Strategic Planning, and it opens up a series of tools. The first step is to watch this video. Just go ahead and click this link and then watch the video. And then what you're going to do, you're going to create the vision. You're going to create a strategic plan. You're going to create a meeting rhythm. We've got sample agendas. These are all the tools you need, and they're all over here. So the first step, after you watch this video, this is a great video on how to do this, but then you're going to step back and you're going to create a vision. And it's very simple. Your vision consists of 3 key things: purpose, values, and mission. And we define what those are, and we give you examples of what they are. So for example, and one of the things to be very clear on, there's a great book, by the way. Here's another great book. I'm sorry I keep giving you these great books, but this is a book called Beyond Entrepreneurship. It's written by a guy named Jim Collins. You can just read chapter 2. It'll take you through everything. But basically, the first thing you want to do is, what is your purpose? Why do you exist? Why did you decide to start your business? What are you wanting, needing to get from the business? Why do you do what you do? And we actually give you a sample purpose. And these, in this sample purpose, we're actually giving you what we think are important. This is why we created Business Design Corporation, to create a technology that makes process development and implementation easy for business owners, as well as professionals who are consulting with business owners, such that small businesses can flourish and thrive. So that's our purpose. That's a sample purpose. What you will do is you'll come in here and you'll just click in here and you will delete what we've done and you'll write your own purpose. It's a sentence or 2 that really describes the why. Why are you in business? Then there are values, and we give you a set of 9 different values that are the values in our company, and values are what you hold sacred. So you can use these if you like. You just click in here and you can keep them, or you can edit them. So this is what we believe in. We empower entrepreneurs. We do what we say we will do. We listen, we care, we serve. We practice open and real communication. We face challenges with optimism. We check our ego at the door. We innovate and constantly improve. We do the right thing. We believe in people and their dreams. And this is not only our clients, but we believe in our staff and all of our employees. Your purpose and your values are typically enduring things. It's not what you aspire to be, it's what you are. So what you'll do is you actually click in here and you actually fill out your own stuff. Your mission, on the other hand, is your big, hairy, audacious goal. It's what you're intending to accomplish. So our mission, and I have no idea, frankly, how we're going to accomplish this at this point, but in the next 7, maybe 3, 5, 7 years, we want to be one of the essential applications business owners need to easily plan and manage their business successfully, and to be recognized as one of the market leaders in this field among small business owners with 100,000 subscribers worldwide. That is a big, hairy, audacious goal. This is the first step, and you can literally click into any one of these boxes and start writing it. And after you've watched this video, we give you tons of great content. Next, you want to create a strategic plan, and we actually give you a worksheet for that as well. We give you a worksheet for creating a meeting rhythm, because if you don't have a strategic plan, or if you have a strategic plan and you don't have the right mix of consistent meetings to carry it through, then it's all just, you're just blowing smoke. So we suggest, and these are our suggestions, that you have an annual planning meeting. You have specific deliverables. You have quarterly planning meetings. You have monthly planning meetings, weekly planning meetings, daily huddles. We even give you sample agendas for each one of these types of meetings. This might be a sample agenda for your annual and quarterly meetings, and this might be a sample agenda for your monthly and weekly meeting. We've got, and we've even got a plan for how to track and adjust your activities and your measurements. Very, very, very powerful process. So you'll simply download this and pop it into your TouchStone account, and we walk you through the steps. So we've got uploaded files, we've got forms to help you organize your content, we've got multiple work plans. You can click in here and put all your content in here. You can see how all of this content coming down here, all of this content is organized into one process. And by the way, if we were setting up our business, this would be the responsibility of the president, and we would link it to the president's job description. And if we now go to the organization chart and click on the president's position, you can see that we're starting to build the job description for the president by simply linking processes from the 4 key functions to that specific position on the organization chart. I'm not doing a demo of TouchStone today. I just wanted to give you an understanding of what's available to you if you want to start this 5-step plan. Next step, create a picture of what your business is going to look like. So now that you have this destination defined, this vision, you want to create this graphic picture of what that business is going to look like organizationally. How many salespeople will you need? How many client fulfillment? How many crews will you need? How many crew leaders? How many project managers? How many back office support people? How many estimators? How many managers? In step number 2, you're going to create your org chart. Again, as I said earlier, this is the org chart of your future company, because your future company's org chart is going to be very similar to what you're doing now. It's just more of it. But creating your org chart will help you define positions, and you'll be able to see the positions that you're going to need to hire in the future. It becomes a strategic tool that you'll use to help you grow your company. Who do you need to hire next? Who will they report to? And what will they be doing? I mentioned a moment ago that I hired an appointment setter in my business. This was as a result. I had a frustration because we were getting a lot of leads from all over the world in most English-speaking countries, and we were unable to actually follow up with our existing organizational structure. We were unable to follow up with all of these leads. In fact, it was my responsibility. So I had this frustration, and I thought, well, is there anybody else in my organization who could do this? And I thought, well, no, these people over here, they're on the financial and administrative side. These people are on the operations side. And while these people are on the sales side, they're going to have the same challenge as me because they're all in the United States. So I came up here and I just clicked add a position, and I called the position the appointment setter, and that position reports to the manager of sales from marketing, this person right here. And I clicked save, and it added this position to my org chart. So it's very simple to organize your org chart. Everything's drag and drop. If I want to move someone around, I can move people around. I can delete positions. So that's one of the first steps you're going to take, is you're going to create your org chart and develop your process. And again, we've got instructional methods for how to create an org chart and when you need a position, when you don't need a position, etc. I'm not going to go into that today, but we've got lots of content that we can help you with that. Step number 3, identify and name all the procedures that you think are necessary. When you do this, I want you to sort of step back for a moment and think about your business in a new way. I want you to rise above the landscape of your business and think of it as having 4 key functions. Getting the business, these are all of the processes for sales and marketing. doing the business. These will be all of the processes for delivering on the promise that you made during the sales process. These are processes for client fulfillment, production, customer service, all of the systems that directly relate to what you do for your clients. Running the business, these are the processes that go on behind the scenes: invoices, paying your bills, collections, hiring, budgeting, all those things, essentially all of the financial and administrative processes, and even human resources and IT type systems, like how you scan for viruses, how you back up your computers. Guiding the business, these are the strategic systems for leading, managing, and guiding the business from where you are today to where you want to get to. So essentially what we say is that there are 4 key functions, 4 core activities that happen in your business, in any business. You've got to get the sales. You've got to deliver on the promise. You've got all of these activities that are going on behind the scenes, and you've got to guide and manage things. This becomes your systems database. This is where you will store all of your systems, all categorized in 4 key functions. So if we go back to the TouchStone account, you'll click here. You'll have your 4 key functions. This is where you can, it's very simple. All you do is you say, okay, how do we generate leads? Well, you might say that we generate leads by putting signage on lawns that we're working on. You might say that we do maybe we do direct mail. It seems to be picking up again. So we do direct mail. We have our website. So this is that step. All you're doing, remember I said it's not how, it's what. And maybe you're part of a BNI organization, or you've got some networking with chambers of commerce and leads organization. And then what you do after you've got a lead, you have maybe an initial, you might call it an initial consultation to make it sound really good. And this is what we call lead conversion. And the purpose of an initial consultation is to qualify this prospect. And then maybe you'll do a site visit. You'll go out to the person's, to the new client's site, and from that you'll do a site survey or a site measurement, and then you'll create an estimate. Then you'll do the proposal presentation. So do you see how I'm just going through this and identifying everything I can think of? You do a proposal presentation, and so on and so on. And all you do is you go through each of the key functions in your business. Once you're done, let's say you've gone through all these 4 key functions, you can actually go to, and Dan has a complete library of processes specific to landscape contractors. So he can help you out in your thinking. So you can come up to the library, and your accounts will say landscape processes, and you simply click on it, and you'll have a bunch of processes. Like you might say, you know what, oh yeah, I need an accounts payable process, and I need a collections process, and I need this and I need that. And you can actually download them into your own TouchStone account and click Save, and these processes will come into your account, and then you can open them up, use them as is, or edit them. Very, very powerful step to take. There's in the business systemization kit, the How to Systemize Your Landscaping Business that we sent out earlier to you, the book that Dan wrote, we have clickable links where you can go in and see these processes, different processes that you can use. Next step is connecting those processes and assigning them to boxes on your organization chart. I showed you a moment ago how I did that strategic planning with the president, but you can also just, let's say that my appointment center or my salesperson, I'm going to click on salesperson, and I'm going to say that the salesperson is responsible for all of those sales processes that I just put in here. So those were lead generation and advertising. They're responsible for direct mail, networking, signage, and website. All I do is I select them and I click Save, and it will start building that specific position's job description. So it's a very, very powerful process. Before I go into the last step, just a quick word about job descriptions. When we're working with companies, I often ask them if they have job descriptions for each position in their company. And usually the answer is, oh yeah, I do that. And rarely are the job descriptions current, because they're usually only used to hire someone. Once the position is hired and the job description is looked at, it's just filed away until a new employee needs to be hired for that position. And then they look around for that old job description and they determine whether or not it's accurate. they make the changes, and then the process continues. So the purpose of a job description is for hiring. In fact, this is an example of a job description from a client we just started with a number of months ago. And when you look at this, this is not a job description. This is an ad for getting a practice manager. In TouchStone, this I showed you earlier, this is a job description for my appointment center. Once I linked all of the processes with the position on the org chart, I can print this out, and this is a direct picture of the printout of the job description for the appointment center in our account. In TouchStone, because all of the procedures from the process database have been linked to specific positions on the org chart, the job description created is a list of all of those processes someone filling that position is held accountable to. There's no excuse. And the job description then is not only used to hire the new employee, it's used to train them, to manage them, and to evaluate them. And because it's used to evaluate the employee, both the employee filling the position and the manager of that employee, they tend to keep their eyes on the job description. And as a result, it tends to stay, it's current, it's dynamic, it's this fluid document that grows and changes organically, as do the processes and the activities in the business. So you can sort of see how this doesn't really work when you've got just an application sharing tool like Dropbox or Google Docs. And here again, when someone needs to know what to do, they simply click on their position on the organization chart. That accesses their job description. Then they click on the specific process to access the documented system, and a set of instructions pops up on how to perform that task. So now you have complete functional accountability. You have all of your processes, you have all of your positions, and you've tied them together to create job descriptions. The experience that we hear more often than not when someone is trying to systemize their business is that it's just difficult to organize all of these different Word documents, these checklists, these spreadsheets. So employees, they just can't find them when they need to use them, or the manager can't find them when they need to update something. Now, I spoke earlier of the complexity of procedures, how they can have work plans, checklists, scripts, etc. In TouchStone, all of those elements are organized under the process name, and the process is linked to the position on the org chart, and that then becomes the position's job descriptions. So I will say that many of your procedures will be simple, just a work plan, for example, but as you train and manage employees in a specific procedures, you'll find that the processes, they will start to develop and grow with more and more complexity, more and more detail. They get more and more granular. This is actually a graphic representation of one of the processes that we've got called contacting existing leads in your pay-per-click campaign. And you'll notice that there are 3 work plans. There are probably a dozen scripts. There are a couple of checklists. There are uploaded files. It's a very complex process. So how do you get your processes written? Documenting your procedures, it's not rocket science, but it's simple, but it's not that easy. It takes time. And it's important for you and the whole organization to think of it as a process rather than a project. It's something that happens over a span of time. It's an evolution. And you do it a little at a time. You don't have to be focused on doing it all all day long every day. You do it when you have a reason to do it. For example, let's say that you have a frustration. Either you do it then, or if you're busy, just get started. Just create the process name and write the broad stroke steps and schedule some time to fill in the details later. So you might, during the training of a new employee, you might have the new employee write down what you're telling them and then give them some time during the day to document what they've written into your TouchStone account and then review it and edit with them the following day. So if you think of how well trained they're going to be, first of all, you're telling them how to do what they need to do, and you can be sure that they're paying attention because they know that they're going to be responsible for documenting what you're telling them. Then they're going to go and write it down, and then they're going to review it with you the following day. So you're engaging multiple sensory experience. You're engaging an auditory experience, a visual experience, even a kinesthetic experience, and you're repeating the process 3 times, once during training, once during writing it up, and the 3rd time during a review. So this can be a very powerful way for getting your processes written. I'll share with you a quick story before we close, because we're going to wrap up in just a couple of minutes. Another idea of getting your processes written is to create a game of it. We had a client, a Century 21 real estate agent, and they had 25 real estate agents in their office. So it's a pretty big firm. The problem is 80% of their revenue was coming from 20% of their agents. There were really only 5 agents that were producing, and the other 20 were just, they just weren't doing very well. They were selling a couple of houses a year. Well, it doesn't have to be that way, and this is probably often your experience, 80% from 20%. What we did is we created a contest. We took the top 5 producers, those top 5 real estate agents, and we made them captains of 5 teams. We looked at the rest of the 20 agents, and we took 5 of the greenest, the newest agents, and we randomly put them on each team. So now the team had a top producer and a very, very new agent, and then we took everybody else and we just distributed among the teams equally. So now we had 5 teams of 5. The contest was to deliver the best listing presentation. We had 3 judges. We had the owner of the firm, the owner's father, and he used to own the firm, and we had the owner of the title company that they used most frequently. And they were given 3 weeks to come up with their presentations. And there were 2 rules. The presentation had to be less than 3 minutes long, and the presentation had to be delivered by this rookie, the greenest member of the team. And there was this really great gift that was offered at the end of the presentation. And there was a lot of camaraderie and competition amongst the teams. Each team wanted to win. On the day of the presentation, they gave their 3-minute listing presentations, and the owner recorded them. And he took them back over the weekend, and he just took all of the nuggets and he put them all together into a really well-crafted script. And then over the next 2 weeks, he workshopped all of his agents. Every single one of them could do a fabulous listing presentation. The result? His sales jumped exponentially. No longer was it the 80-20 rule. And lots more work started happening. Every agent was more fulfilled. They knew how to do what they needed to do, and everyone was making more money. As a next step, I'd just like to suggest that you take action. Get started on systemizing your business. You can register for a free consultation with Dan. He will start helping you understand your processes. And register for a free demo of TouchStone just to see what it's like. I think it will give you that opportunity to do that. To register for a free consultation with Dan, just make a note. Just send an email to Dan at sodinc.net, sodinc.net. Put in the subject line, free hour consultation. If you want to register for a demo, go ahead and text the word SOD, SOD, to this number, 707-800-3603. You can also go to this link, businessdesigncorp.com and /demo and schedule a demo. The easiest thing, and it's a really cool little system, you'll love it, text SOD to that number and we'll follow up with you and make sure. Dan, are you available? You want to take back? You'll have to unmute, Dan, if you're...
Yeah, I was answering a question, and one of the questions that we got was, do you have suggestions for employees that English is a second language or don't speak or read English at all?
The processes, all of your processes can be written in another language. So if there's a language barrier, your managers obviously need to be bilingual because they need to explain to everybody. And if you are in, one of the things that's great about being a landscape company, if we've got a crew person or something like that, if you click on the specific position, you can actually run their job description out to Word or to a PDF. You can print an entirely position-specific operating manual, and all of the content can be in Spanish. So I don't think that should be a problem. You just have to, with your computer, we have, for example, a client in Mexico City, and all of his processes are written in Spanish.
Yeah, the other thing I thought of was that once his processes were written, the manager who was bilingual could actually do a video translation too, if he, and he could attach that to the system, to the process.
Yeah. Essentially, this is a question from David. I'm seeing that. If they're functionally illiterate, that's a challenge, David, because they can't read or write. I mean, could they read or write Spanish? If they can't read or write, then systems aren't going to help them. Possibly you don't have to write systems for them. And it's sort of like sometimes I have clients who are artists and they say, you can't systemize my business because what I do is very creative and it's different every time. And I say, well, absolutely. But how do you do your invoicing? How do you do your collections? How do you do your mailings? How do you do all the other stuff in your business? Like a brain surgeon, doing brain surgery is not systematic. It's an art form. but how you follow up with insurance companies, how you greet patients, how you do all this other content, those are processes. So maybe if your laborers are functionally illiterate, they can't read or write, you just don't write processes for those people. You write processes for all of the other positions in the organization. Another question here is what is the investment in the TouchStone system? It's not a one-time fee, it's a subscription, and we have two applications. One is $49 a month and one is $149 a month, and it will depend on which application is best suited for you. Dan, do you want to talk about your presentation, your group?
Yeah, sure. One of the things that we offer is a quick start course. And there's a website, I think it's on the link, it's probably gone out to you via email or will go out there shortly.
It will have gone out, yeah.
And so normally these classes are done one-on-one, and they can be, they start at $2,400. We're going to do a quick start group class. It's an interactive class. It's not a class where we lecture you and you take notes. We'll be working together on the tasks in the TouchStone Systemization platform. We try to minimize the preparation and the reading required. Our objective is to make this predominantly a hands-on experience. The class is designed to get you up to speed as quickly as possible you're working in your landscape business. And that's really the big difference between this system and the other approaches to systemization, is that Mike designed this platform which allows you to work in your business while you're working on it. Michael Gerber talked about those two things, but it was like do one or the other. With the sophistication of the computers and the availability of them on the internet, which is ubiquitous now, you can do both, especially using this platform. In the group class, through participatory exercises and lectures, you'll be guided through 4 core functions. We'll make sub-functions. We're going to talk about standard operating procedures. We'll show you how to use the TouchStone platform to create process and procedures specific to your company. Strategic target development, we touched on that during the webinar. Our process walks you through the important considerations regarding vision, revenue, and profitability. Identification and labeling of all your company's systems and procedures. A fully functional organizational chart designed specifically with your strategic target in mind. The job descriptions Michael talked about. Each position in your org chart will have job descriptions that can be used for accountability reviews and will function as part of your business operations manual. And we'll show you how to have position agreements for each job description. We'll show you how to use your job descriptions as position agreements that are foundational to hiring your employees and managing your company. Everything you do in class will be specific to your business. It's not cookie cutter. Systemizing your company is actually not just about the systems. It is as much about the process as it is the results. And Michael kind of addressed that when he said, you know, it's not a project. We'll teach you how to fish, so you'll have the knowledge and the skills to create the dynamic, essential, and compelling processes. And this is a 12-session course, and it's available through the end of July at $497. We'll send you a link to the website where you can read more about it. If you have any questions, you can call me or email. And I'd like to pass it over to Dan if he has anything to add to that. It's going to be Dan and I who will be...
Well, thanks, and Michael, good job. I would just add that at the end of the day, it's really about the freedom that Michael stressed and the clarity that this provides. I do a lot of on-site work with clients, and in fact, the question that was asked about language or lack of education or whatever, in the TouchStone system, you can shoot videos or audio, or specifically videos, and show people how to do what they do without writing anything down. You have a lot of capability within the platform to really enhance the relationships you have with your team and the clarity that they have. But at the end of the day, it's really about how they feel when they go home. And what I've seen time and time again is that when people do experience this and move through the habits required to do this, that they end up with clarity and certainty and confidence in their roles, and ultimately that passes on to the customer. I invite any of you that have a strong interest in those kinds of experiences, as well as profitability and fewer frustrations, to jump in on this, because it really is practical and virtual And it's so much easier than a lot of the things I see companies doing for accomplishing the onboarding, training, and clarification of policies and procedures. That's it, Dan. I just like to conclude with that thought.
Thanks, Dan. Michael,
Okay.
back to you.
Okay, so I just want to end on one last thought. The value of your company is not exclusively based on your annual revenues or your profitability. It's based on ability for things to be duplicatable. If the business cannot be brought, if things cannot be duplicated, it just can't be brought to the next level. And if your company's processes are documented, when you're ready to sell, you can show them your processes. You can show them the value of your processes and how to scale your business, how someone could invest in your business and make it 2 times, 3 times, 10 times the size of it is right now. So the value of your company is really, especially if you've got a tool like TouchStone, you can just showcase your business with a tool like TouchStone. Paul Lemberg, he's the CEO of a company called Quantum Growth Consulting. He reported that you can increase the value of your business by as much as 100% simply by systemizing it. Every system that you write, you don't have to have everything written down, but every single system that you do write is going to be an asset, and it adds value to your business and anyone who is interested in purchasing it. And I will recommend Dan's book. This is a book that Dan Pistretto wrote on marketing. So there's a link here that you can go, or you can Google Dan's book, and we may have put that link in an email that we sent out too. So Dan's written a great book on branding in the digital age. Final slide. Great quote from an author named Scott Fritz, who wrote a book called The 40-Hour Work Year. His talk is all about systemization. To me, the basic definition of a business owner is someone who can afford to hire an employee to do their job. Until you can afford to hire this person, you don't own a business, you own a job. This completes today's presentation on how to systemize your landscaping business. In closing, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for attending. I hope it's been valuable. I hope you'll be able to put to use what you've learned today. I want to thank Dan Pistretto and Dan Nevitt for sponsoring today's event. If you have any questions, you have an email in your inbox right now from Dan and I to restates the offers, and you can simply reply to that. Come visit us on the web at businessdesigncorp.com. I think we've got that right here. We've got some great content there. And you can also call us at 707. That's my direct number and Dan's direct number, 707-522-6253. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dan, and talk to everybody later. Bye now.
Thank you, Michael. Great job.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.